Tonight, have video games improved this man's life?
I couldn't get laid for so long, and once I did, it was ugly people.
It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you debate the game, right here on Crossballs.
Comedians posing as experts.
Pot is good for everyone.
Women are designed for sex.
Hunting is self-defense.
I drive drunk all the time.
Debating real people.
I'm not gay. It's totally immoral.
Who don't know the show is fake.
That's a lie. You're an idiot.
Die.
Out of the crossfire, beyond hardball. This is Crossballs.
I'm Chris Tallman. From asteroids to Zelda, video games are blasting box office records and banking billions. But do these games cause horrible addiction, or are they just more fun than fiction? With us now is professional video game tester Matt Gleason. Also with us from the Internet and Computer Addiction Services of Seattle, Washington, Dr. Hillary Cash. Thank you for being with us. Question of the day. Are video games addictive? Dr. Cash, let's begin with you.
They can be, because they produce in the brain dopamine, which is the chemical it's very similar to cocaine.
Really?
Wow, you're crazy. I mean,
Why is that?
well, I at least play 12 hours a day. Most good video game players do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
If you're a kid, it absolutely affects the development of the brain. Children basically develop short attention spans and difficulty.
Well, I'm an adult.
Well,
He's playing 12 hours a day. How does that affect him? Is he addicted?
well, probably.
What you call addiction, I mean, that's my life. Just because you live in meat space longer than I live, longer than I do, then I live in cyberspace.
What's meat space?
Well, we're in meat space right now. You see, she's all caught up on our bodies, and I don't enjoy being in meat space because I'm not good at it. I prefer to be on the video game land where I have notoriety, where the people who are losers can be winners.
A lot of times in today's society, technology is everywhere, and it's difficult sometimes to deal with people. What about that?
I think it's important to learn the skills that you lack so that you can deal with
What
people.
skills does he lack?
What skills do I
Social
lack? skills,
the skills of being able to interact with people, communicate well with people.
I do communicate with people in multiplayer games all the time. I have tons.
Your life is made up entirely of video games because you're a video game tester.
Yeah.
Are you married?
Yeah.
And so I have no idea what that relationship was like, but my experience...
It's good because of video games.
Okay, because you and your wife play them together?
No, she doesn't get that at all. But like, well, for instance, they have this game called The Sims.
Sure.
You get to create your own life there, and like a lot of times you make mistakes in your life that you regret. Well, you can make up for those mistakes in this life, like, you know, you can leave the she-beast at the altar if you want to. You can...
Are you talking about your wife?
Whoever's wife. You can, I got this girl pregnant in high school. I pulled out in Sims.
Well, let's not. Don't applaud that. Don't applaud that.
I'm just saying, I'm awesome when I'm online. Like, I'm a Jedi warrior. I run a city. I'm actually, in NBA video basketball, I'm better than Michael Jordan. I don't get any credit.
So here's what I want to say to that, is that most people do have to work at jobs that aren't video game testing. They are going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to being out in the real world, in the meat world.
Meat space.
Meat space.
Well, why are video games so much better than what's going on here? Who are you there?
I'm awesome, man. I'm so good that I'm like 220 pounds, rock hard muscle. I got long, raven black hair, steely blue eyes. Chicks love me, and look at me. I mean, I'm actually both skinny and fat, and that's messed up.
The point is that being in the real world is hard work. You have to develop some skills in order to be there.
Why? Why do I have to?
Does video game addiction ruin personal relationships? Matt?
No, in fact, it helps them. My friend, he cheats on his wife. He has a fetish for Asian women, and I tested this video game it's coming out called Jungle Fever, where you get to have sex with, you know, whoever, Mexicans, Asian women, and he did that. and now he's playing that game and he doesn't cheat on his wife anymore, so it's beautiful.
Good real-time relationships require intimacy, and they require honesty, they require emotional intelligence, and if you don't have those
You want
things...
him to cheat on his wife, it sounds like. This
No, I
game
want
makes
to
him
work
stop and cheat on his wife.
I think there's a better solution to
He's
his cheating on his
tried,
wife.
man. He's tried.
What about the fact that kids are getting lost in these games? You think that's a good
it's
idea?
Good. Moderation is the worst thing. You really need to stop saying that to people because it's dangerous.
I am going to say it to parents because
Stop saying it. It's dangerous.
Put
Moderation.
their kids in harm's way if
No,
they
you
don't.
are. You are putting them in harm's way just to sell books. That's what's happening. We call them perma-newbies because, you know what happens to perma-newbies? The people who play less than 2 hours like you're talking about. Dead.
There is a distortion of reality for kids who play video games.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if that was just a
I
little
think
demonstration there, but
I think
it
was.
might have been.
All right, now we've obtained the following clip, which was used as evidence during a divorce proceeding. It shows a wife confronting her husband to play of a popular online game. Let's take a look.
The date is September 28th. Patrick has now been playing for 72 hours straight. Patrick, I just need to talk to you, honey.
Just a second.
I can't wait another second. I just need to talk to you.
No. I'm not going to finish the quest, and if I don't, then I'm not a guild leader, and I don't get what I wanted for the last 3 years.
Well,
The last 3 years!
yeah, well, what about the last 3 years of...
This is serious. You can set me back a level. Turn that thing off. I'm acting under direct orders of Pandagar, the faceless demon. Now, I'm naked again. I'm a newbie. I'm some jack-off running around in padded leather armor. All right?
I'm sorry.
I'm useless.
I'm sorry.
I'm useless like you are.
You're not useless.
Leave. Now.
Fine, all right.
What has that video game done to their relationship?
Destroyed it.
Yeah, why?
Because he's addicted. He's not interested in doing anything except playing the video game, so he's not spending time with his wife, working on their relationship at all. And he's getting more and more engrossed in that cyber fantasy world.
I'd much rather battle a dragon than a nagging wife any day.
Let's move on. New topic. Does playing video games distract kids from reading and learning? Matt.
No, they're more educational than books. There's kids playing SimCity that know about property taxes at the same age when you were making dolls out of apple cores.
Well, you don't need to attack.
It's not an attack, or corn cobs,
what about that
whatever.
idea? There are certain games that are educational for children. That's true, right?
You know, game makers mostly are interested in making money, and they can exploit the addictive quality of these fantasy games, and so that's mostly what they make.
Are there any educational games for
Yeah,
kids?
that's what I got right here. A fighting tournament between different word types like noun, verb, adverb. In the future, it has been determined that the only one type of word will exist. One word type to rule them all. But they have to fight to the death to figure out which word type will be victorious. Will the noun use his lightning finisher to overcome the adjective's meat hook spinning combo attack? Can the adverb use his jiu-jitsu moves to kill the verb? Or will the verb evade him with his teleportation abilities? That teaches you about grammar in a fun way.
What? What does that teach kids about grammar?
Reading is a perfect example of the kind of skill that it takes a certain kind of brain development to be able to do.
We're running out of time. I got to cut you off. Is there anything video games can teach us? Go, Matt.
It can teach us to be who we want to be. It's impossible to be who you want to be in meat space. She seems to be better at meat space than I am. But let me just say this. If you were in one of my video games, I could out-debate you. And if I couldn't, I'd kill you.
That is...
With a flamethrower and watch you burn.
That's uncalled for. Next up, violent video games, machine guns or machine funds? More Crossballs when we return.
Let's talk about Donkey Kong. Obviously, the angry black man after the white woman.
Welcome back. Tonight's topic, video games. Joining us is the author of The Doom Generation, Jerry Davis. Also here from Zeitgeist Games, Dustin Klingman. Big question. Does graphic violence shown with awesome graphics make us want to blow people to bits in the real world? Dustin.
Absolutely not.
Why?
I mean, well, there's actually no credible foundation of evidence that you can present that really links violence and games together.
You know, our soldiers, let's say in Vietnam, they only had one enemy, and that was the Viet Cong. The Viet Cong didn't change. They didn't become some spinning, flaming warlock or some skeleton that shoots out acid from his mouth. You know, these games teach people that they have to react in a violent way against these threats, and they react even more violently when they go out into society.
Is that true?
What would you do if an acid-spitting warlock showed up in front of you?
Well, see, that's not going to happen. But you believe
exactly
it's going to happen.
Absolutely
and that's the way you react when you see a
Cloak
threat.
of invisibility.
You react as if...
Absolutely not. That's insane to try to make that linkage. These things don't exist in reality. There's no line that's drawn.
What about games that depict the real world? Grand Theft Auto, it's incredibly popular, and it's about violence here in the real world. How do you explain that?
There's no consequences in these games. And why are these games so negative?
Why do you have to go Auto, the police are chasing after you constantly.
Yes,
I mean, there are you know, consequences.
Let me explain. I want to hear this.
They're not the consequences that you should have, from what I've seen in Grand Theft Auto.
Who are you to say?
You just start over again and you start playing when you committed some violence. If a kid kills somebody in a game like that, they should go to video jail. Every time that kid turns on a video game, he should be behind bars for the next 20 years.
Well,
that's real.
In the case of
that's real.
The Entertainment Software Ratings Board has said that only 8% of the games that were sold were actually rated M for mature, which Grand Theft Auto falls under. 63% of those games were actually rated E for everyone.
So right now we have E for everyone, T for teen, and M for mature.
Right.
Now my system would be more than that, so that parents have a real knowledge of what's going on in these games. I propose V for general violence in a game, okay? VWBS for violence with bloodshed. VWEBSAD for violence with extreme bloodshed and decapitations. FBN for female breast nudity. You have nudity in some of these games. FVN for female vagina nudity, if they ever come out with that. FBVN for female breast and vagina nudity. MEN for male nudity. Let me finish. L for network TV. LBC for language on basic cable. And HBOL for HBO language. These are things that I want to know when my kids are playing these games.
But the list of things that you just gave out to me is a bunch of letters that I don't understand. You know,
well, you would
people understand T for teen, M for mature, E for everyone.
Look,
it's very simple.
You want to dumb down America?
I don't have to dumb down America. They can they're informed.
You are by what you do.
Parents are involved with decisions about rentals and purchases 83% of the time.
Matt, go ahead.
What games are playing.
What game has vaginas?
Stop it. No. We're not getting into that. We're moving on. Next issue. Do video games make money by marketing the worst parts of humanity to the public? We'll start with you.
You know something else is that these games are racist and bigoted.
How?
Look at the characters that are in these games right now. You don't have black heroes in these games. The heroes are always white. And you know what? In these role-playing games that these white nerds sit around and get hopped up on that. No, you listen to me, because this is what they're doing. You look at these kind of people, and these are the kind of people that are teaching your children about how they should react to the world. These are white nerds sitting around getting hopped up on Mountain Dew. Getting hopped up on Mountain Dew and making these games up. And then these games don't reflect anything that has to do with me. It's always the white knight going after the dark forces. And I know what you mean by dark forces. You mean by people like me. You've never seen a black elf running around in the forest. You don't see that, but you sure as hell see an evil black orc or some kind of troll.
Zelda's produced in Japan. It's not a North American game.
Hey, it's the white man's influence.
It's a Japanese man's influence.
Next up, an expert who believes the future of video games is going back to the 80s. More Crossballs when we return. Welcome back. Tonight's topic, video games. Nintendo or Nintendo-don't? Joining us now via satellite is a media professor at Fordham College, Richard Walsh. Now, Professor Walsh, you teach a unique perspective on the sociology of video games. Tell us a little bit about that.
I believe that we need to return to the way video games were 20 years ago. Now, we need to remember that violence is imitatable. And violence in 80s video games was harmless. Even fun. You can't really blow up somebody with a bicycle pump. But games today, they have kids killing Haitians. Whereas in the 80s, all you wanted to do was kill carrots.
Is there any truth to that those earlier games are somehow more innocent?
It's the same kind of people developed these games back then that do them now. And you know what? Pac-Man is homophobic. And think about this. Think about this. The ghosts are homosexuals. They wear garish, bright colors and dresses, and they rub up against each other in a box. Think about it. Is the Pac-Man going to let them be? Let them be free, be homosexuals, let them get married? No, he's going to eat a power pellet and then go chomp the ghost.
Do you have any idea how audacious that sounds?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very audacious.
You guys
but
are
if we had power
laughable.
pellets in real life, there would be no gay culture right now. You wouldn't have any
This is the same connection that says a mouse click equals pulling a gun out and shooting it at somebody. It's laughable.
That's what you're doing.
It's laughable.
That's what you're doing.
It's
let me go.
laughable. No reasonable person would make that connection.
Professor, what is it about these games that makes them better, in your opinion?
Well, Pac-Man taught us how to channel our fear. It also taught us about the benefits of eating fruit. Now, today, all we get from our kids is an adrenaline rush. Let me finish, please. From killing hookers and beating up on old ladies. We need to take a page out of the Frogger book. I mean, Frogger just wanted to get across the street. Now, that's a noble goal.
The cat is out of the bag in terms of violence being so prevalent in the video games that it'll be very hard to get people to be willing to return to the less violent era. But if there were a way to do it, I would be all in favor of it.
So you're trying to come up with new games now that are like the old games, right?
Yes, I'm talking about going back to the future, and our class and me have developed various ideas.
I want to run through them, and then I'd like to bounce them off of you guys. You guys are the video game guys. All right, so go ahead, Professor.
Okay, well, this first one is called Alien Shuffle. I'm particularly proud of this, where you dance with aliens to make them change color. And if you get enough of the same color, a yellow rocket ship gets to blast off. But watch out for the blasteroid.
Professor, what's your next idea?
It's called Rainbow Runner.
All right, now tell us about Rainbow Runner. We've got a clip. We can watch it.
Now watch this. This is where you get to run a marathon on a rainbow. Imagine this, running on a rainbow. Now, it's a regular rainbow with brown as one of the colors, but still, isn't that wonderful?
Well, I mean, the first thing I noticed...
Thank you.
The audience likes that.
See, the audience would buy that
The first thing I noticed is that you said it was a marathon, but that was already up to like 28 miles. They don't...
Those are rainbow miles.
What the hell are you talking about?
Can I say something on what I saw in that game?
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
What I saw in that game was a white man treading over the gay community. A rainbow road and a white man treading over it.
What's your reaction to that game, to Rainbow Runner?
Well, you know, that doesn't look particularly too fun to me.
No,
honestly,
not to me either.
Well, one man's boredom is another man's Cobb salad.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Play all the games that you want.
Matt, would you play that game at all?
It's all about commerciality, isn't it?
No, he's going to get sued. I mean,
we got to move on. Next up, some video game addicts are kicking the habit, but do they replace it with something worse? More Crossballs when we return. Welcome back. With us now via satellite is ex-video game addict Andy Wesley. You and your friends have found a unique way to balance video games and real life. Tell us about that.
We call it street gaming.
Street gaming?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, what it is a bunch of people get together who are fans of a game. For us, it's Grand Theft Auto, and what we do is we go out and we play the game on the street, in the real world. And we dress up in the costumes of our characters. My character is Tommy V. His character profile is that he's a criminal, and I'm dressed up as him right now.
Yeah, and isn't the premise of Grand Theft Auto, correct me if I'm wrong, the premise of that game is to go out and rob cars. Aren't you guys just in a gang robbing cars?
No, it's not a gang at all. It's just a club of people who do it. And we don't really steal cars.
What do you do about the violent content of Grand Theft Auto?
We shoot people with paintball guns, like instead of real guns like they do in the game.
Your friends or people on the street?
No, just people on the street, like strangers.
What the hell are you talking about? You can't. That's exactly
in the game, but it's paintball guns, so nobody's getting hurt. It's not against the law to mess up somebody's shirt.
What do you know? If you got shot on the sidewalk by a paintball gun, wouldn't you be pissed off?
Absolutely. If I wasn't wearing any protection, it stinks.
Yeah, what are you talking
what
about?
Kind of protection, like a smock?
Oh, well, I mean, a leather jacket.
It's illegal.
It's not illegal to spill coffee on somebody. Why would it be illegal to get paint on somebody's shirt?
What I think is that if you could set better boundaries around it, it'd be a fine idea. To actually play it, it's just like kids playing. You know, they act out the things that they want to act out, and in their own play, that's fine.
You come to me and shoot me with a paintball. I got a 357 at home. And I got ready for you. Don't play any games with me.
I got a bone-handled
scimitar at home, and I'll come right back at you.
Stop it now. It's
Yeah, you
pronounced
can say your
scimitar.
fantasy world for all you want to. I'll put a hole in your
So
head.
you're running around, you're shooting guys left and right. Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's totally, we do it safe, like the person was saying there.
Does that sound safe to you?
Well, you know, it sounds like when he starts talking about it, it's theatrical and production, but when he starts talking about making illegal U-turns and shooting people, I mean...
All right, now we actually have here tape from the police. This is you and your friends playing your street game. Tell us what we're seeing here, Andy.
This was actually on the news because we were playing this street game where I shot an old guy, like, just with a paintball gun because he was being a drug bust. And oh, yeah, so they actually hit my car and it spun it around, which was awesome. And then my tires blow out, and look at that, that's sparks. I'm like driving on a total bed of fire, which the effects in the game are great, but not like that. You cannot get that in the game.
Because it's not a game.
Right, exactly. And I'm yelling out the car the whole time. I'm a criminal. My character is a criminal. But look at that. I actually got arrested for that. Just ridiculous. We passed by while we were playing this a guy who had no driver's or no license plates at all on his car. The cops didn't care about that. They just passed right by it, kept going for me, and I'm just playing a game, basically.
Come on, Dr. Cash, is that a good alternative to playing video games?
I think in this case it's not. It's coming too close to reality.
The police don't knock people out off the road for no reason at all.
And actually, the first time that we got pulled over by the cops, I totally thought they were in on it because, of course, there are cops in Grand Theft Auto. So actually, my friend was about to shoot this guy with a paintball gun, and I was like, maybe you shouldn't.
We're out of time. All right, we'll see you next time when more experts get caught between the crossballs. Good night.
So you missed last week's Graham Norton effect.
What?
RuPaul reminisced about the good old days.
I had a pair of high heels in a dream.
And Macaulay Culkin recalled his days home alone.
It's 14 years ago, people.
That's when things started getting crazy.
Ooh.
Thank God Jesus was in town. As for this week...
Light on weird, heavy on good.
An all-new episode of The Graham Norton Effect. Tomorrow at 10 here on Comedy Central.